Hello, dear listener. Welcome to MacLeod Chronicles, where imagination drifts and stories unfold. Sit back, relax, and let the journey begin. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more soothing tales. Dream Jumpers. The wind rattled the windows of Eli's tiny bedroom as he lay staring at the ceiling, counting the minutes until midnight. His heart pounded in his chest. Tonight was the night he would test it. Eli wasn't just any dreamer. He had discovered something extraordinary. When he fell asleep, he could leap into different dimensions. Dream jumping, that's what he called it. And tonight, his friends Leo and Mira would join him. "Meet me in the dream," he whispered to himself as his eyelids grew heavy. Then, everything shifted. Eli found himself standing in a swirling tunnel of light. Leo and Mira were already there, grinning, their bodies surrounded by shimmering energy. "You made it." Mira laughed. "Where are we going tonight?" "Let's try something new," Eli said, concentrating. The tunnel responded, bending and twisting until it spat them out into a landscape of golden clouds and towering crystalline spires. "Whoa," Leo gasped. "This is unreal." The trio explored the floating city, laughing as they soared through the air like birds. But something was wrong. A strange pulse echoed through the sky like a warning. "Do you hear that?" Eli asked. A shadow rippled through the clouds. It was coming for them. The dream began to crack. The golden city trembled, and suddenly, Leo wasn't there. "He's gone," Mira screamed, clutching Eli's arm. Eli's heart pounded. He had heard stories of dream jumpers vanishing into dream worlds, never waking up. "We have to find him." The swirling vortex reappeared, but this time it was pulling them toward the unknown. And then, darkness. Eli's eyes snapped open. Or at least, he thought they did. Everything was dark, too dark. The warmth of the golden city was gone. Instead, he and Mira stood in a void, suspended in weightless silence. "Leo?" Mira called, her voice barely above a whisper. No answer. "This isn't right," Eli murmured. His dreams had always followed a pattern, a world, a place, a feeling. But this was something else. Then the darkness shifted. A glowing crack appeared beneath their feet, stretching across the void like splintering glass. A deep hum vibrated through the air, shaking Eli to his core. "Something's coming," Mira warned. And then Leo's voice. "Help me." It came from everywhere and nowhere all at once. "Leo," Eli yelled. He reached for the crack, feeling its energy pulse beneath his fingertips. The dream was unraveling, but that meant one thing: it could still be shaped. Mira grabbed my hand. She didn't hesitate. As soon as their fingers intertwined, Eli focused. The golden city, the light, the dream. He willed it back into existence. The void shattered. They tumbled through space, spiraling out of control until they landed hard on something solid. "Where?" Mira gasped. It was the golden city again, but something was off. The spires were broken. The sky flickered like a glitching screen. And in the distance, Leo. He was trapped in a whirlwind of shimmering mist, his body flickering like a fading star. "We have to get to him," Eli shouted. But before they could move, the mist shifted, twisting into a form, a figure. It spoke. "You are not meant to be here." The figure stepped forward, its form shifting like smoke caught in a breeze. It had no face, no eyes, just a presence that seeped into Eli's mind. "You are not meant to be here," it repeated, voice like distant thunder. Mira tightened her grip on Eli's arm. "What is it?" "I don't know," Eli murmured, "but we're getting Leo back." The mist around Leo churned, reacting to Eli's words. He could see Leo struggling, his body flickering in and out of existence. If they didn't act fast, he'd be lost forever. Eli took a step forward. "Let him go." The figure tilted its head, considering. Then the golden city trembled. "You are trespassing in dreams that do not belong to you," it said. "You have gone too far." "We're dream jumpers," Eli shot back. "This is what we do." The figure raised an arm. The mist coiled tighter around Leo, and suddenly Leo's voice, strained, desperate. "Eli, it's not just a dream." There's something. His voice cut out as the mist swallowed him whole. "No," Mira cried. Eli's heart pounded. He had shaped dreams before, but this was different. It was as if the dream was fighting back. He had to change the rules. "We are not leaving without him," Eli said. The air shifted. The figure hesitated, its smoky form rippling like disturbed water. Then Eli felt it, the dream's edge. "Mira, close your eyes," he instructed. "What? Why?" "Trust me." She squeezed her eyes shut, and Eli focused. The golden city, the sky, the mist, it was all part of the dream. And if he could rewrite the dream, he pushed. The city shuddered, and the mist exploded outward. Eli gasped as Leo collapsed to the ground. coughing. Leo. Mira rushed to him. Leo lifted his head, eyes wide. Eli. Mira, we have to wake up. Now. What? Why? Eli asked. The figure remained standing, but something had changed. It was watching. This isn't just a dream, Leo whispered. There are others here. Others like it. The ground beneath them cracked, revealing an abyss of swirling darkness. We have to go, Leo urged. Eli nodded. Wake up. Eli's eyes snapped open. His bedroom's ceiling greeted him, and the sound of the wind rattling his window returned. Everything was normal. Except he wasn't alone. Leo sat up from his sleeping bag, breathing hard. Mira stirred, panic in her eyes. Eli swallowed. It followed us back, didn't it? Leo nodded. This isn't over. Eli sat frozen in his bed, pulse racing. His room was the same posters, same flickering lamp, but something felt off. Across the room, Leo sat up, rubbing his face. Mira turned on the bedside light, her hands shaking. Did it follow us? She whispered. Leo nodded. I think so. What do you mean? Eli asked. Leo hesitated. When I was stuck in the mist, I saw something. Not just the figure, it was watching us, but so were others. Like, dreams were aware of us. Eli felt his stomach twist. He had spent years dream jumping, bending reality inside his own mind. But it had never fought back. Until now. We need to go back, he said. Mira and Leo stared at him. Go back? Are you crazy? Mira hissed. We barely made it out last time. We left unfinished business, Eli insisted. If it followed us here, it means the dream is still connected to us. If we don't end it, what happens when we sleep again? Silence. Leo sighed, rubbing his temples. He's right. If it's still tethered to us, then every time we sleep, we might slip back into its grasp. Mira groaned. Fine. But this time, we wake up if things go south. Eli gave a firm nod. Agreed. This time, the jump was instant. No golden city. No tunnel. Only darkness. Where are we? Leo murmured. I think we skipped the door and dropped straight in, Eli replied, scanning the void. It felt different this time, thicker. Watching. Then, the figure appeared. You returned, it said, its voice sinking into their bones. We want answers, Eli declared, stepping forward. The figure didn't move, but suddenly whispers. Soft, eerie voices filled the space. Eli turned to see hundreds of shadows looming beyond the darkness, flickering like dying stars. Dreamers. Trapped. What are they? Mira whispered, eyes wide. They were like you once, the figures said. But they never woke up. Eli swallowed hard. You trapped them? No, the figure answered. They chose to stay. The air shifted. The shadows reached out, whispering, pleading. Leo stepped back. Eli, we need to go. But Eli wasn't listening. Something tugged at his mind. A whisper. A voice. His own. Stay with us, Eli. The dream wasn't just watching him. It was calling him home. Eli could feel the dream pulling at him, weaving threads of forgotten whispers into his mind. The space around him was thick, pressing against his thoughts like a weight he couldn't shake. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, stretching like smoke caught in an invisible wind. This dream had a consciousness. It wasn't just a world he had entered. It was something alive. The figures moved in silence, their presence neither threatening nor inviting, simply observing. Eli knew what they wanted. They weren't captors, not exactly. They were remnants of dreamers who had made a choice, who had surrendered themselves to the endless expanse of sleep. Some had been here so long, their forms had dissolved into little more than echoes. The dream called to him softly, threading through his thoughts, whispering promises of belonging. It offered escape from fear, from responsibility, from the weight of the waking world. It would wrap him in its warmth, let him exist in a place where time was meaningless. He felt it creeping into his mind, testing his resolve. The temptation was real. But Eli knew dreams. He knew how they worked, how they could shape themselves to entice those caught in their grip. He forced himself to focus, steadying his breath, grounding himself in reality. He had to break free, had to remind himself that none of this was real. Leo and Mira had trusted him to lead the way, but now the dream was fighting back, twisting his thoughts, bending the rules. He thought of home, the scent of rain outside his window, the scratchy warmth of his old blanket. The sensation was faint, distant, but enough to push against the dream's hold. The shadows trembled, sensing the shift in his mind. Then, the dream pushed back. A pulse rippled through the void, deep and heavy, as if the space around him was breathing. It wasn't ready to let him go. The golden city flickered at the edge of his memory, its broken towers waiting. The dream wasn't just showing him images, it was rebuilding itself around him. He could feel Leo and Mira close, their presence grounding him. They had to wake up. They had to leave before the dream swallowed them whole. Summoning every ounce of control he had, Eli willed the dream to crack. He imagined the surface breaking apart, imagined the edges peeling away. He focused on waking up. The dream resisted. Then, everything shattered. Eli gasped as his eyes flew open, his body jerking upright in bed. His heart pounded against his ribs, and for a moment, he wasn't sure where he was. The walls of his room felt too sharp, too solid, too real. Across the room, Leo sat up, breathless. Mira groaned, rubbing her temples. They had made it. But something was wrong. A faint hum lingered in the air, just at the edge of hearing. Eli's stomach twisted. The dream wasn't fully gone. It was waiting. And next time, it might not let them wake up at all. Eli couldn't shake the feeling that the dream still lingered. The hum in the air, just barely audible, sent shivers down his spine. He looked at Leo and Mira. Both were awake, both were breathing, but something wasn't quite right. The room felt altered, as though reality hadn't fully settled back into place. He threw the blanket off, stepping onto the floor. The wood beneath his feet felt solid, real. But as he moved toward the window, something caught his eye. His reflection in the glass didn't move at the same time he did. A slow dread crawled through his chest. He lifted his hand, watching the delayed reaction in the glass. It wasn't a trick of the light. It wasn't exhaustion. It was something else. Guys, Eli whispered, I don't think we're completely awake. Leo stood abruptly, scanning the room. Mira clenched her fists. No, we woke up. We're here. But were they? The hum deepened, vibrating softly through the walls. It was faint, but now that Eli had noticed it, he couldn't ignore it. It was everywhere. Leo's breathing quickened. This isn't good. Mira took a step back, rubbing her arms as though shaking off invisible hands. How do we know for sure? Eli turned, mind racing. In dreams, there were rules, patterns. They didn't always make sense, but they were consistent. If this was still the dream, then there had to be an exit, a weakness. We need to wake up, Eli murmured. For real. He squeezed his eyes shut, thinking of his heartbeat, his breath, the weight of the world outside of sleep. He focused, pushing against the haze, willing himself free. Nothing happened. A chill ran down his spine. It's holding on to us, Leo realized. It doesn't want us to leave. Myra's face twisted in fear. Eli, what do we do? The hum grew louder. The walls flickered. Their reflections warped. The dream wasn't done with them yet. The hum intensified, vibrating through their bones, filling every inch of the room with an unseen force. The walls flickered, solid one moment, translucent the next, as though reality itself was unraveling. Eli clenched his fists. He wasn't just trapped in the dream anymore. The dream was changing them. Leo's breath hitched as his reflection twisted in the window. It wasn't just lagging behind anymore, it was watching him. Its eyes, his own, stared back with unnatural stillness. "We need to break out. Now," Eli muttered, scanning the room for something, anything, that could sever the dream's hold. Mira pressed her fingers to her temples. "What if this is waking up?" She whispered, her voice trembling. "What if we never really leave?" Eli refused to believe that. There had to be a way. If the dream was bending reality, shifting the rules, then they had to rewrite them. It was all about control, about believing, about forcing their minds free. He turned to Leo and Mira. "Don't panic. Just focus. Close your eyes and think of something real. Something solid. Something outside of this room." Mira inhaled sharply, squeezing her eyes shut. Leo hesitated, staring at his distorted reflection before obeying. Eli took a deep breath and did the same. He pictured the street outside his house, the chipped pavement, the rusted mailbox, the smell of damp earth after a storm. He thought of movement, of stepping forward, of his body leaving the dream. The hum wavered. The flickering slowed. For a brief, heart-stopping moment, silence. Then, reality snapped. Eli jolted awake, breathless. He was back in his room, back for real. He glanced at Mira and Leo. They were awake, wide-eyed, panicked but whole. The dream was gone. Or at least, they thought it was. But deep in his mind, Eli still felt it. Waiting. Watching. And he knew, next time, it wouldn't let them go so easily. Eli sat motionless, staring at the ceiling as his heartbeat slowed to a steady rhythm. The dream was gone, but the sensation of it still clung to his skin like static. It had felt too real, too deliberate, like something else had been pulling the strings. Mira sat cross-legged on the floor, rubbing her arms, while Leo paced near the window, his eyes darting back and forth as if expecting the dream to seep through the glass. No one spoke for several moments. The silence was heavy, thick with the weight of something they couldn't quite name. "It let us go," Leo finally muttered, his voice hoarse. "But that doesn't mean it's gone." Mira shuddered. "I don't want to do that again." Eli wanted to agree, but a gnawing sensation crept into the edges of his mind, curiosity. The dream had been different from all the others, like it wasn't just a place but a presence, something watching them, studying them. And the most terrifying thought of all? It had been expecting them. He swallowed hard. They had always treated dream jumping like an adventure, a hidden world they alone could explore. But what if those worlds had been aware of them all along? Leo exhaled sharply, turning toward Eli. We need to stop. No more jumping. Eli hesitated. We need to be careful, he agreed. But deep down, he knew that wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Because tonight had proven one undeniable truth. Something on the other side of sleep was waiting. And next time, it might not let them wake up at all. Eli couldn't sleep. Hours passed, and he remained staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythmic ticking of the clock on his nightstand. His body was exhausted, but his mind buzzed with restless energy, like something unseen was pacing at the edges of his consciousness, waiting for the moment he let his guard down. Dream jumping had never felt dangerous before. It had always been thrilling, mysterious, a secret world just for him, Leo, and Mira. But now it felt like something had turned its gaze on them, aware of their presence in a way they had never considered before. He rolled onto his side and glanced at his phone. 3:47 a.m. Across the room, Mira and Leo slept soundly, too soundly. Eli frowned, watching the slow rise and fall of their breathing. Something was wrong. The air in the room felt off, like a filter had been placed over reality. The sound of the clock had faded, replaced by a faint hum, so quiet it was almost imperceptible. Eli's chest tightened. Had they ever really woken up? He sat up slowly, scanning the room. His posters remained plastered to the walls. His lamp cast the same dim glow, but everything felt just a little too perfect. The shadows in the corners of the room didn't shift naturally. The air lacked the weight of the real world. And then he saw it. His reflection in the mirror across the room, it wasn't facing the same direction as him. It was staring directly at him. Eli's breath hitched, his body frozen as fear gripped his spine. They were still dreaming. And worse, something inside the dream knew they had figured it out. Eli forced himself to stay still, his pulse hammering in his ears. His reflection, his other self, stared at him with eerie stillness, unblinking, unchanging. The longer he looked, the more he noticed the slight distortion in the mirror's surface, the way his reflection's breathing didn't match his own. He tore his gaze away and turned to Leo and Mira, both still asleep. Were they truly asleep, or were they trapped deeper in the dream, unaware? The hum in the air grew louder. He reached toward Mira, shaking her shoulder. She didn't stir. Come on, wake up, Eli hissed, shaking her again. Nothing. Her body was there, but she wasn't responding. Leo, too, remained unnervingly still. His chest rose and fell, his eyes shut, his expression peaceful, but it was wrong. Too peaceful. Eli clenched his teeth. They had never faced anything like this before. The dream had adapted, learning their tricks, sealing off their exits. It wasn't just bending reality anymore. It was trapping them in an imitation of waking life. But if the dream could manipulate their surroundings, that meant there had to be cracks, something it couldn't fully control. Eli glanced at the mirror again, shuddering at his reflection's stillness. Maybe that was the key. Swallowing his fear, he stood and stepped toward the glass, the distorted air pressing against his skin. His reflection remained unmoving until, just as he reached the surface, it smiled. Not a natural grin, not his own expression. Something else was watching from the other side. Eli recoiled, his breath catching. The room trembled. Then, the reflection reached out. Eli stumbled backward, his breath shallow. The reflection's outstretched hand hovered just beyond the glass, its fingers curling as if testing the boundary between worlds. His own mirrored form shouldn't move like that. It shouldn't think. It shouldn't act on its own. The air grew heavier. The hum deepened. This was no longer just a dream. It was something more, something alive. Eli clenched his fists, forcing his fear down. If the dream was pushing against reality, then maybe he could push back. He had manipulated dreams before, reshaped them, controlled them. But this time, the dream wasn't obeying him. It was resisting. The reflection twisted its head unnaturally, its grin widening as if it understood his thoughts. "You are awake," it whispered, "but not free." The words weren't spoken aloud, but Eli heard them, felt them coil around his mind like tendrils of ink. His stomach twisted. Behind him, Leo let out a sharp gasp. Mira groaned softly, stirring as if trapped between sleep and wakefulness. "Eli." Leo's voice was hoarse. Eli turned, his gut dropping. The walls were shifting, bleeding at the edges. The dream wasn't letting them go. It was resetting. And this time, it wouldn't make the mistake of letting them realize they were trapped. Eli's pulse thundered in his ears as the floor beneath his feet flickered, solid, then non-existent. They were slipping. "No," he hissed, forcing himself to remember. His room. The clock. The scent of old books. Reality was still there, just beyond the veil. He reached for Mira, shaking her harder, ignoring the way her form seemed to glitch under his touch. "Wake up. Mira, wake up." Her eyelids fluttered, but then her body stiffened. A slow, A natural smile spread across her face. The dream had her. And now it was reaching for him. Eli's breath hitched. Myra's face remained frozen in that eerie, unnatural smile, one that did not belong to her. The dream had tightened its grip. It was no longer just holding on to them. It was adjusting, learning. Leo's breathing turned shallow, his eyes darting around the room. "This isn't Mira anymore," he whispered. Eli clenched his fists. "She's still in there. We have to wake her up." But the walls continued to shift, the edges of the world flickering between solid and void. The dream had them cornered, reshaping itself in ways they had never seen before. Then, Mira moved. Not in the way a person moves, not in the way she had ever moved before. Her body stiffened, her limbs almost too precise, like a puppet testing its strings. And when she spoke, the voice was hers, but hollow, distant, like something else was borrowing it. "Why do you resist?" she asked. Eli felt the weight of the words sink into him, as if the dream itself was challenging his presence. "Mira?" he called cautiously. She tilted her head, not in recognition, but in observation. "You do not belong here anymore," she said. "But you will soon." The walls pulsed. The air crackled. Leo grabbed Eli's arm. "We have to." Mira, or rather, whatever was wearing her skin, lifted a hand, and the world fractured. Everything collapsed. Time stretched, fragmented. Then silence. Eli opened his eyes. The room was gone. Reality was gone. Only darkness remained. And Myra's voice, no longer hers, whispered in his ear, "Welcome home." Eli floated in darkness. There was no ground beneath him, no air, no weight, only the sensation of being. He could feel the presence of something vast, something endless, wrapping around him like invisible tendrils, holding him in place. The dream had consumed everything. He tried to move, but there was no movement in this space, only thought. He tried to speak, but no sound came. Panic threatened to close around him, but he refused to let it take hold. He wasn't alone. Myra's voice, no longer hers, had spoken to him, whispered welcome home like a decree rather than an invitation. That meant something still recognized him, still saw him as a part of this place. But that didn't mean it was willing to let him go. He focused, pushing against the void, trying to grasp onto something real. The hum returned, soft at first, then growing louder, vibrating through his very bones. Then, shapes began to emerge. They were figures, hundreds, thousands, standing at the edges of his vision, featureless but unmistakably human. dreamers, trapped, or worse, integrated. The dream wasn't just holding on to people, it was absorbing them, weaving them into its endless fabric. Eli. His own name echoed in the void, but it wasn't spoken aloud. It was placed inside him like a thought that wasn't his own. He clenched his jaw, refusing to let the dream worm its way deeper into his mind. The figures stepped closer. Reality felt impossibly far away now, like something he'd imagined rather than something he'd lived. But he refused to accept that. He was real. He existed beyond the dream, and he wasn't staying here. The void trembled, resisting him, but Eli pushed back. Then, light. A fracture. Something cracked apart, and Eli woke up. Eli sat up, gasping for breath. The walls of his bedroom were solid again, his reflection in the mirror perfectly normal. The hum was gone. The dream was gone. But something felt off. Leo and Mira stirred, both waking with sharp intakes of breath, their expressions mirroring Eli's own panic. For a moment, none of them spoke. They simply sat there, hearts pounding, the weight of what had just happened pressing down like a fog. "We got out," Leo whispered, as if trying to convince himself. Mira hugged her knees to her chest, her face pale. "But did we really?" Eli swallowed hard. It was impossible to know for sure. Had they truly woken up? Or had the dream simply shifted again, adapting in a new, more seamless way? He had felt the world crack, felt the light split the void, but the dream had been clever before. It had adjusted, disguised itself. He glanced at his bedside clock. 4:03 a.m. The time was reasonable, but was it real? Mira exhaled shakily. How do we test it? How do we know this is actually real? Leo hesitated. We could wait. Eli shook his head. No. If we're still dreaming, waiting might only let it pull us in deeper. The room was silent. Then, a thought struck him. Dreams were never perfect copies of reality. They felt real, but they always had glitches, tiny inconsistencies, things that didn't quite add up. Eli stood abruptly, his skin cold. He walked over to the window, pressing his hand against the glass. Outside, the street lay still in the dim glow of the night. Everything looked normal. That wasn't enough. He turned back to his friends, his chest tightening. We have to find something that proves this world is real, something permanent, something the dream couldn't possibly predict. Leo's brow furrowed. Like what? Eli looked down at his arm. Then, before he could second-guess himself, he grabbed a pen from his desk, uncapped it, and pressed the tip hard against his wrist. Myra's eyes widened. Eli, what are you? If we wake up again and this mark isn't here, Eli said, pressing the ink deeper into his skin, then we'll know we never really left. The true test would come later. Silence filled the room. Leo inhaled sharply. That's kind of genius. Also terrifying. Eli pulled the pen away. A thick, dark line remained on his skin. It was real. At least, it seemed real. If they woke up again and the mark was gone, then the dream had never let them go at all. The night stretched on, tense and restless. None of them dared to sleep, not yet. The mark on Eli's wrist remained dark, a thin, undeniable reminder that if it ever disappeared, they would know the dream had never let them go. Leo paced the room, occasionally glancing at the clock. 4:27 a.m. Time was still moving forward. But that didn't mean they weren't still trapped. Maybe we should keep doing little tests, Mira suggested, her voice still shaky but steadier now. Write things down. Say things out loud to remember. Just in case. Eli nodded. He grabbed a notebook from his desk and flipped it open. The ink felt reassuringly real as he scribbled April 17th, 2025. We think we woke up. Leo leaned against the wall. And what happens if tomorrow we wake up and the notebook is blank? The question hung in the air. Then, Eli said after a moment, we know we're still stuck. Mira exhaled sharply. I hate this. Eli agreed. He hated not knowing. The dream had always been an escape, a gain. But now it felt like something else entirely. Like something had chosen to latch onto them, to test them. What if we just don't sleep? Leo asked. Ever again? Mira let out a dry laugh. Yeah, that sounds doable. Eli stared at his wrist, the ink standing stark against his skin. We have to sleep eventually, he murmured. Leo sighed. Then what? Do we just hope the dream gives up? Eli didn't think that was likely. Whatever had been watching them, it wasn't the kind of thing to simply let them go. It had learned them, adapted to them, trapped them without them even realizing. And next time, it might be smarter, stronger, better at pretending. Eli flipped to a fresh page in his notebook and started writing everything, what they had said, what had happened, what they needed to remember. Because when they woke up next, they would need proof. Or they might never realize they hadn't woken up at all. Eli sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the inked line on his wrist. It remained dark, solid, real, but reality itself had become something he no longer trusted. Leo and Mira had settled into an uneasy silence. The weight of the unknown pressed against them like an invisible fog, thick with unanswered questions. Sleep was unavoidable, and that terrified them more than anything. Eli didn't know when he finally let exhaustion win, but eventually, his head grew heavy, his eyes fluttering closed. And when he opened them again, he was standing, not in his room, not anywhere you recognized, just somewhere else. The ground beneath him shimmered, shifting between textures: stone, sand, water, something unfamiliar. The sky above pulsed, waves of deep color rippling like liquid. He turned sharply, searching out. Leo and Mira stood beside him, their expressions tense. "It happened," Mira whispered. They had fallen asleep, and the dream had pulled them right back in. Hello, dear listener. They never woke up. They had only dreamed they did. The realization settled over them with suffocating weight. Then, something moved in the distance. A shape, tall, shifting, watching. Not the figure from before. Something worse. Something waiting for them to understand the truth. They had never been escaping the dream. They had only been sinking deeper into it. Eli's stomach clenched as the towering shape shifted in the distance. It wasn't like the figure they had seen before. It wasn't even pretending to be human. This presence was something older, something that had always been there, waiting beneath the layers of their dreams. The ground beneath them pulsed, rippling like liquid. The sky above twisted, deep waves of violet and black rolling in slow, deliberate patterns. The dream was awake. Leo stepped closer to Eli. "I don't think this one wants to talk." Mira swallowed hard. "Then what does it want?" The shadow stretched forward, its formless mass expanding, reaching toward them. Eli forced his mind to stay sharp. They needed control, needed to bend the dream to their will. He focused, trying to solidify the space around them, trying to break free. But this time, the dream didn't let him. The towering entity rippled, and suddenly they were falling. The sky fractured. The ground collapsed beneath their feet. Eli barely had time to scream before. Everything stopped. Silence. He opened his eyes. He was alone. The dream had separated them. And now it was speaking to him directly. "You should not have come back." Eli floated in an empty expanse, the echoes of the dream pressing into the edges of his mind. The voice, deep, ancient, had spoken to him directly. "You should not have come back." That minute knew him. It had been watching, waiting, perhaps even preparing for this moment. The void pulsed, shifting as if it were breathing. Eli felt weightless, untethered to anything real. The dream had stripped everything away: Leo, Mira, even the imitation of reality it had built. "Where are my friends?" he demanded, forcing strength into his voice. Silence stretched before the voice answered. "They're learning." Eli clenched his fists. The dream wasn't just trapping them, it was trying to change them. The void shimmered, and shapes began to form. Memories, his childhood bedroom, the streets he had walked, laughter he had shared. But they all felt off, warped just enough that they weren't truly his. "You are no longer separate," the voice murmured. "You belong to us now." Eli refused to accept that. He focused, forcing the world to shift, trying to break free. The void rippled in response, but it didn't fracture. Instead, it adapted, expanding, stretching, drawing him deeper. It wasn't going to fight him this time. It was going to absorb him completely. Eli felt the void shifting around him, molding itself to his thoughts, his memories. It was no longer resisting him. It was consuming him, rewriting reality in its own image. The voice echoed again, deeper this time, resonating through his bones. "You belong to us now." Eli gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He wasn't just a passive dreamer. He had manipulated dreams before, bent them to his will. If the dream was absorbing him, then he could fight back from inside. He concentrated, reaching for something, anything that tethered him to the waking world. The scent of rain, the feel of paper against his fingertips, the ink on his wrist. But the ink was gone. The memory wavered, as if the dream had started erasing the details of his existence. Then, the figures emerged again, those silent, waiting beings that had stood at the edges before. But now, they weren't distant. They were beside him. Eli turned sharply, his pulse hammering. They were no longer formless. They had faces. His face. Hundreds of versions of him stood in the vast expanse, their gazes locked onto him, their expressions eerily neutral. "You are already here," the voice whispered. "You have always been here." Eli took a step back. "No," he hissed. "I can still wake up." The copies of him tilted their heads, their movements synchronized, controlled. "Then wake up," the voice challenged. Eli inhaled sharply. He clenched his fists, focused all his energy on breaking free. The dream trembled. The figures shuddered. Then, everything splintered. Reality bent, and Eli opened his eyes. But something was wrong. He sat up, gasping for air, staring at the walls of his room. His clock blinked. His bed felt solid. Mira and Leo stirred beside him. But something was off. The ink was back on his wrist. But now, it was moving, shifting, curling into new shapes, as if the dream had followed him out. Eli's heart hammered as he stared at the shifting ink on his wrist. It curled and twisted, forming shapes that didn't belong, patterns that moved even though his skin remained still. Mira and Leo sat frozen, their expressions mirroring his own horror. "It followed us," Mira whispered. Leo clenched his jaw. Or maybe it never left. Eli tried to steady his breathing. He had fought the dream, forced himself awake, but if it had somehow bled into reality, then waking up wasn't enough. The ink continued to shift, spiraling outward like vines creeping across his skin. He gritted his teeth. "We need to prove this world is real," he said. "Find something the dream can't touch." Mira reached for her notebook, flipping it open. The words they had written before proof of their escape remained intact. But then, one by one, the letters began to fade, as if the dream was erasing them. Leo cursed under his breath, shoving the book away. "Okay, no. We are not playing its game anymore." Eli clenched his fists. If the dream was still reaching for them, then they had to find a way to sever its hold completely. He stared at the ink, watching it twist, watching the shapes it created. Then, realization dawned. The patterns weren't random. They were words. "Stay asleep." A cold dread gripped Eli's chest. It wasn't just following them. It was trying to pull them back in. Eli clenched his fists, staring at the shifting ink on his wrist. The dream hadn't just followed them. It was still tethered to their reality, clinging onto them like a parasite. They needed to sever it completely. Mira flipped desperately through the notebook, looking for anything that hadn't been erased, any fragment of proof that they still existed outside the dream's grip. Leo rubbed his temples, muttering under his breath. "There has to be a way," Eli murmured. "A real way, not just forcing ourselves awake." What do dreams rely on? Thought, memory, belief. They existed because the mind allowed them to exist, which meant We have to reject it, Eli said suddenly. Leo frowned. Reject what? The dream itself, Eli answered. Every part of it. We keep fighting to wake up, but what if that's exactly what it wants? If we keep believing it has control, it keeps pulling us back. Myra's eyes widened. You think we're giving it power? Yes, Eli said. So we do the opposite. It wasn't about waking up. It was about breaking the dream's foundation. We stop believing it exists. The ink shifted violently, reacting to his words. The hum in the air deepened, vibrating through the room. The dream felt the challenge. Close your eyes, Eli ordered, voice steady. Don't push against it. Don't fight it. Just forget it exists. Mira hesitated, but followed. Leo exhaled sharply and shut his eyes too. Eli let out a slow breath and did the same. The hum pulsed harder. The ink twisted, resisting. Then, everything stopped. No sound, no movement, just stillness. Eli opened his eyes. The ink was gone. The room felt normal, not distorted, not heavy, just real. Leo stared at his own hands, disbelief flashing across his face. Mira looked around, her breath steady for the first time in hours. Did we do it? Mira whispered. Eli's chest tightened. I think we finally broke free. Eli exhaled, letting the weight of the moment settle over him. The ink was gone. The hum had vanished. The air felt normal, solid, real. He glanced at Mira and Leo, both still processing the shift, both waiting for the dream to claw its way back. But nothing happened. The nightmare was over. Leo let out a sharp laugh, almost disbelieving. Mira wiped her face with shaking hands, the tension still gripping her body like a memory she couldn't quite shake. So, we actually did it? She murmured. Eli ran a hand over his wrist, where the ink had once twisted into sinister words. Yeah, he said. We beat it. Silence stretched between them, but this time it was peaceful, not the suffocating, eerie quiet of the dream, but the normal stillness of a world that felt right. The clock ticked forward. The walls didn't ripple. Their reflections moved exactly as they should. It was over. But as Eli sat back against his bed, staring at the ceiling, he couldn't ignore one lingering thought. The dream had fought harder this time. It had learned them, adapted, tried to trick them into staying. And if it had done that once, it could do it again. They would never dream jump the same way again. Not after this. Because now they knew the truth. And next time, they might not be lucky enough to escape. Thank you for being a part of Calm Cloud Chronicles. What kind of stories help you relax the most? Please let us know in comments below. If you enjoyed this story, let us know by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Until next time, stay peaceful and keep dreaming.